Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and for today's cards I am playing along with this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, and I pulled out 4 colors of Distress Oxide inks. I have Dusty Concord, Salty Ocean, Peacock Feathers, and Squeeze Lemonade, and I'm working on my Waffle Flower Water Media Mat. I need to make a point of pulling this out more often, especially when I'm doing ink blending, because the mat is silicone and it just grips paper so well. Like every time I use it, I'm like, why do I ever put it away? Anyway, I'm also working on Bristol Smooth cardstock, and these inks blend on it like a dream. Like, I sped this up in editing, but even then it did not take very long. Everything just blended together. The ink went down so perfectly. I did this all in kind of 4 stripes, just to get the colors, you know, all onto this background piece. It's roughly A2 size, like 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I think it's a little bit wider, but I'm going to cut it down later. And my original plan was just to blend the inks on, you know, add some splatter, go on about my day. However, I started thinking and I was like, I wonder if this would work. I honestly didn't know if this would work. I grabbed the Simon Says Stamp Stripe Jumble Background that I used in my last video that I'm obsessed with. I have it face up, and I lightly misted it with water using my Nouveau spray bottle. Not a ton of water, because you don't want big blobs of water on here, but I misted it about 4 or 5 times, like holding the bottle a couple feet up. And then I am pressing that background right onto it, and the result was so cool. You know, you get the Oxide effect with the water resist, the pattern of the stamp. Some of the areas did blob up that had a little bit more water. I'm totally okay with that. Some of the areas were a little bit darker with that because it was the dye ink in the Oxide inks, you know, just doing their thing. So really fun. So I dried it with my heat tool, and then I was going to wipe the stamp off, but I'm like, because it doesn't look like there's a lot of ink on there, but I'm like, why not? So I misted the stamp again with that residual ink that was on it and pressed another piece of Bristol Smooth. And again, I wasn't sure if this was going to work, but I'm like, well, just see what happens. So pressed the Bristol Smooth into it really, really well, and I ended up getting a second impression. Obviously a lot lighter, but how fun is this? I'm going to have to do this with like other colors and different background stamps and stuff, but it was fun. So I set the second one aside because I'm not going to do the water splatter on it. There's not really enough ink. But on the first one, I'm going to splatter some water, let it sit for about a minute or so, and then pick up the excess with paper towel so I get the great splatter effect on this background. And then, of course, because I'm obsessed with it lately, I'm going to take both these backgrounds, and I have my little mini mister bottle here that has Ranger's Perfect Pearl powder and water in it, and I just shake it up really well first. And then I just take the nozzle out and I just use that to splatter this all over both of these backgrounds. So I've got a nice like shimmery splatter going on. And then I'm going to set both of those aside and work on the other elements of the cards. So for both cards, I am using the Carnation Frame and Sunflower Frame Wafer dies from Simon. And I'm going to run all my cardstock through my little Xyron 3-inch adhesive machine. So all these pieces of cardstock are going to have adhesive on the back of them. This way I can stack these and I don't have to sit and fiddle with adhesive. I generally will avoid using wafer dies like this that have a lot of detail that I like how dies look when they're stacked, you know, several layers of cardstock, but more often than not, I don't have the patience to sit and stack them, and especially lately. But running them through this way, there's going to be adhesive, so then all I'm going to basically have to do is peel and stick, which is perfect. So I decided to do black cardstock for one of the dies and white cardstock for the other. Pressed the adhesive down really well onto that cardstock after I'd run it through the machine. I just used my Teflon bone folder for that. And then remove the backing paper, cut these apart into pieces so I can run these through. And I'm going to run all these through my Gemini Go. So I'm going to use the standard sandwich pattern for the Gemini Go, but I'm also adding the little metal shim because both of these dies are quite intricate. So I want to make sure they die cut all the detail also all the way through and through the adhesive. So got my little sandwich stack. So cutting plate, cardstock with the adhesive, wafer die, the magnetic plate, there's the plastic shim, the metal shim, and then the last cutting plate. And then it's just a matter of running this through my Gemini Go multiple times for all of these die cuts. And then after I get everything die cut, all I have to do is peel off the backing from each piece and then start stacking these together. And when I was doing this, I was like, this was so much easier than in my head than I thought it was going to be. Here I've been avoiding using wafer dies like this more often than not, and these just went together perfectly. Like, it was so simple. So that's literally all I did. Just peeled off the backing and then stuck each layer together so that each one is 3 layers of cardstock. So it gives it that extra like depth and dimension. I'm not going to add any other color or anything. There's already the detail in the wafer dies, which you will see in my detail photos that I'll post at the end as well as on my blog. And plus, because my backgrounds have so much color, so I didn't want to add anything more to these. So I've got all 3 layers of the white that I used with the sunflower frame, just continually just peeling off that backing and then stacking them all together. And I just found the easiest way to line them up was just to start at like one of the corners, because since they already have the frame, it's pretty simple. So everything just lined up. And then I used the black cardstock with the carnation frame, and I just did the exact same process. Just peeled off the backing, stacked each layer until they were done. And then I'm going to trim both these backgrounds down now because the shimmer spray has completely dried on them. So I just trimmed both down to slightly smaller than A2 size. They end up being like 4 by 5.25 roughly. So just trimmed off the edges on both of these pieces. Once I've got these edges trimmed, I can then peel off the remaining backing on these die cuts and press them into place onto each of the cards. So I decided to use the black carnation frame on the more white background because I just thought that would pop really nicely. And then the white sunflower frame I'm going to use on the heavily colored background because, again, that just kind of pops. Black would have looked really nice too, but I just kind of liked having one for each, just something a little bit different. So popped out the interior petals on that one and then remove that backing and then just press this into place. And then I also would use my bone folder just to really press down to make sure that adhesive stuck really well. So got those into place. And then for the sentiments for both of these cards, again, showed this in my last video, I still have my little dish of sentiments using the Thanks and Encouragement Word Mix 1. I've just got a combo of sentiments that were stamped onto white cardstock and also white heat embossed onto black cardstock. So I went through that again, and FYI, that dish I bought at a local home decor store. It's a little spice pinch bowl. So I have a little set of them, and yeah, they're all cat faces. They're just cute. So anywho, I adhered the sentiments with foam tape. Just cut down a little bit of foam tape and then popped each of those sentiments into place on both of these card fronts. And then I also pulled out the new Greetings Mix 1 stamp set that I just love. So I pulled out a couple sentiments from that set that I want to use on the inside of the cards, and I decided to ink up the stamps with the same Oxide inks I used to create the card fronts. So I'm just kind of using the edge of the ink pads, and since I'm using 2 sentiments, each sentiment I'm going to ink up with 2 of the colors. Just kind of tapping and going back and forth, and then stamping onto the inside of the card. And then I just alternate where I place the colors. Like I cleaned off the stamp, and then this one, I put the purple on the bottom and the blue on the top, just cause. You don't have to do that, but you know, sometimes it's fun when I'm somewhat mass producing or doing more than one to mix it up a tiny little bit. And I also stamped them in different spots on the inside. Again, just cause. So inked up the second sentiment from that set with the peacock feathers and the squeezed lemonade ink. And then there's hearts in that set as well. So I decided to stamp a couple of those on the inside of each card just to finish it all off and add a little bit more color. So once I've got those stamped, I'm going to adhere my card fronts to the card bases with Simon's Craft Tacky Glue. So get those adhered and into place on both of these card fronts. Both card bases are standard A2 size, so 4.25 by 5.5. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, I have these Nouveau gemstones. I have a big container of them, but there's also the little container that came in the last Simon Says card kit, in the September card kit. And they were just sitting right here, so I was like, they're perfect. They're shimmery and like, you know, kind of clear. Perfect with these backgrounds. So I sprinkled these rather liberally on both cards. And then I'm just going to adhere these into place with dabs of the Craft Tacky Glue and just picking them up with my jewel picker and pressing them into the glue. And once I've got those all adhered, that's going to finish off my cards. So as always, I will have links below the video to my blog post. I will have a link to the Color Throwdown Challenge in my blog post as well. The supplies listed, linked, all that That will be all on my blog, also linked directly below. So just check out the description box below if you are watching this on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.